in this particular area. It's also an opportunity for us to engage together and ask questions related to women's role in peace building. The bulk of today will be looking at, we'll have 4 speakers who will share their perspective based on their work. And then a lot of the time will be spent collaborating together in discussion forums and breakout rooms. But before getting there, we wanted to give a little bit of a context to this webinar and to the work that we do at the Rotary Peace Fellow Alumni Association Europe. Can we change to the next slide, please? Wonderful. So as you know, we've got people joining us, and we can see in the chat here Rotary Peace Fellows, Rotarians and others from many different places. So great to be with us. The Rotary Peace Fellow Alumni Association is developed as really the purpose is to bring together more Rotarians, Rotary Peace Fellows, Rotaract, Interact and other people interested in peace building work for the benefit of promoting sustainable and lasting peace, particularly in Europe, but more broadly. So thank you so much for being us. The way in which we do this is through a leadership team, which we'll say something about shortly, and Natalia and I as regional coordinators. This is really a call to say it's a collaborative. We really want to hear from you, if you're Rotary Peace Fellows and Rotarians, to really work with us in forwarding this work. So you've got the email addresses there of Natalia and myself, so please reach out to us. I'm going to say a little bit about how you can be involved shortly. So if we can move on to the next slide, that would be wonderful. Here's our wonderful leadership team. I won't go through each individually. You can see their names, but it's a mixture of Rotary Peace Fellows, a global Rotary Global Scholar, and in the middle there we have our wonderful colleague, Rotarian Ambassador Walter Geiger. This is the leadership team, among others. Sorry if we couldn't put all the faces on the slide, but we're made up of a leadership team which basically makes this work. So thank you so much for all your support, leadership team, etc. And thank you so much for being with us on the call today. Next slide, please. The way in which the Rotary Peace Fellowship Alumni Association is set up is to bring Rotarians, Rotary Peace Fellows and others together. We have 2 main activities, and these are 2 main activities that you can get involved with. One is the Rotary Peace Projects Incubator project, which was the first of its kind, happened last year. Initiated by the Swiss Liechtenstein Peace Group. It brought together many Rotary Peace Fellows, Rotarians, Interact and Rotaract across Europe and beyond. This culminated in 25 online sessions or more in English, French, German, etc., with a focus on designing peace projects. So Rotarians are people of action. So the idea was, how can we bring these different stakeholders together to engage in action? This also included workshops around positive peace and other related activities. The other major activity of the Rotary Peace Fellowship Alumni Association Europe chapter is that we're working collaboratively with many other wonderful Rotarians and Rotary Peace Fellows on the Global Cyber Peace Conference. So again, this was a first of its kind, never been done before in the Rotary world, which happened last June. In Europe, we had more than 10 thematic sessions and workshops, presentations on a whole host of different issues related to peace and conflict. Along the way, we presented at Rotaract World Peace Conference, Tranquility Peace Forum in India, Geneva Peace Week, among others. But that's then. We're now interested in moving forward, and I want to say a little bit about how you can get involved. We're now in the process of planning the next Global Cyber Peace Conference, which will be happening in June. Next slide, please. As a reminder, before moving forward, when we're talking about Europe, we use the definition Council of Europe. So our remit is 47 countries under the remit of the Council of Europe. So the call to action, Rotary Peace Fellows, Rotarians, please, 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 this is a collaborative effort. We really want to hear from you and work with you. 5 specific ways you can get involved in terms of the Global Cyber Peace Conference, which this year is called Weaving a Shared Future Together. We have set up different teams, and the overall co-chairs are our wonderful colleagues Elaine and Stacey, Rotary Peace Fellows, who are doing a wonderful job of leading and guiding us. And then we're set up in terms of regional chapters. So you're here now with Europe. 5 ways that you can get involved and is by engaging in one of the 5 different teams. So partnerships and sponsorships. So how do we go about bringing more people together from diverse sectors to engage in this conference? Communications, how do we spread the word about the wonderful work that Rotary Peace Fellows and Rotarians are doing? Technology, the platforms that we use. Monitoring, evaluation. To what extent do we know what we set out to do has actually achieved our goals, you know, and how can we monitor and evaluate progress along the way? And then finally, training. Training consists of supporting capacity building opportunities around, let's say, facilitating discussions, facilitating breakout rooms, etc. So this is an opportunity for you as Rotary Peace Fellows who have expertise in wonderful ways in different areas to really engage in this work together. So please reach out to us if you're interested. So with that in mind, please move on to the next slide. So with that in mind, let's focus on what we're here today to look at. And in order to do that, can I introduce our wonderful colleague, Nino? Her bio is there. She's an intercultural communication specialist and Rotary Peace Fellow, Chulalongkorn. Go Chulalongkorn. Nino's life-changing peace path inspired her to unite inner and outer peace concepts and launch an initiative of Peace Center Tbilisi and Mindful Georgia to promote well-being and inner resilience throughout Georgia and South Caucasus region. So thank you so much for being with us, Nino. And as a reminder, the focus now will turn to Nino. Will give a bit of an introduction to the overall thematic of this webinar, followed by 4 amazing speakers, followed by breakout rooms. That's where we're going, just to give you an idea of the end in mind. So thank you so much for being with us. And Nino, are you okay to give a bit of an introduction to the 4 speakers, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Phil, so much for opening the webinar and for introducing me. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone, depending from where you are joining this webinar on women peace builders from the South Caucasus region. I'm very excited to listen to our exceptional regional speakers, as well as one of my amazing colleagues, Rotary Peace Fellow from UK. So agenda of the day, as Phil already introduced, is that we will have the contributions from the speakers. Then we will have a short Q&A session. You can actually put your questions into the chat box, and our amazing facilitator, Serena, will put those questions, ask those questions to the speakers. And we will have those like short couple of minutes to answer your questions. Then we will move to breakout rooms where you will have a possibility to interact with each other. And then we will be back to the main plenary session room and we will report what has been discussed. So the webinar topic, next slide please, Natalia. The webinar topic has been inspired by my research for my master's thesis on the role of ethnocultural mixed families as confidence building agents between conflict divided communities. As I was born and raised in one of the conflict regions in Georgia, just 20 kilometers away from Tbilisi, the capital of so-called South Ossetia, my personal experience in conflict was indeed traumatic, which I tried to delete from my memories. I wanted to forget also about those images when my ethnic Ossetian classmates were forced to flee towards Tbilisi. That was when nationalistic politics started to surface, and we children were influenced by those nationalistic narratives that ethnic Ossetians and Abkhaz were ungrateful guests of Georgian land. Therefore, as other children from both sides, I was also a victim of a single narrative. However, my subconscious mind accepted the challenge to research the topic, which I so badly wanted to erase from my memory. The field research and the women interviewees gave me that powerful opportunity to open up my heart to multiple narratives, to start understanding the part of reconciliation is being able to shift our frames and our rigid positions, to see that there are multiple truths and to start feeling the feelings of those on the other side. Although the research focus was not on gender, high number of women participation, 99%, gave me a message that perhaps I needed to focus on women from those mixed families, and not only, and their role for grassroots level peace building. Here I am willing to share some of the quotes from my female respondents. You can read actually, but one is one of my favorite, for example, is when I'm in Srinvali, I'm Georgian. When I'm with Ossetians, when I'm in Srinvali, I'm Georgian. When I'm in Georgia, I'm Ossetian. So sometimes I don't understand who I am. So this was really powerful message out of that nationalistic narratives. Next slide, Natalia, please. So here are the objectives of today's webinar: to explore the role of female peace activists in the South Caucasus region, to meet the regional peace building experts and learn from their experience and expertise, to explore the role of inner power and resilience for the role model peace builders. The present research revealed that those women have potential to be the role model confidence builders. However, they feel marginalized and powerless. Before we move to our inspiring speakers, I would like to announce one disclaimer. The objective of the present webinar is not to resolve conflicts in the South Caucasus region and to continue to argue who started the conflict, but I would like today's event on human relationships throughout the multicultural and conflict-divided context to be an invitation to foresee shifting frames and to try to think about the imaginary boundary line that we put between us and others, which often prevents us to understand others, and that we only through mutual understanding, cooperation, reciprocity, and equal acceptance can reach peaceful relations. One of the inspiring peace-building practitioners, Emeritus Professor John Paul Lederach, stated that social healing is made up of moments of resonance, voices touching voices in a common space. So today we will be listening to exceptional speakers from the South Caucasus region. They will try to share with us their own experience of being female peace builders. We will learn from them what kind of challenges they have faced along their peace path and what strategies they have developed to overcome those challenges. After the speakers, we will go to the breakout session rooms, as I already mentioned, where we will have the opportunity to share our feelings, reflections, where our voices can touch others' voices. So let's welcome our first inspiring speaker. So our first speaker is Arzu Abdullaeva from Baku, an activist of the Democratic Movement of Azerbaijan, one of the pioneers of peace-building efforts in the resolution of Arabakh conflict, co-chair of the Helsinki Citizens Assembly International from 2000 to 2012, chair of the National Committee of HCA in Azerbaijan since 1992. The HCA is an international network of non-governmental organizations and individuals working for peace, diversity, and human rights in Europe, the Middle East, and Central Asia. The Olive Palm Peace Prize winner also of the Netherlands Helsinki Committee, Civil Society, and so on. So, dear Arzu, the floor is yours. Please welcome our first speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to everybody here. I see the members of my organization here too. Helsinki Citizens Assembly, I welcome them. And my colleagues, partners, Nino Lotishvili, last 3-4 years we are acting together. So it is a very difficult task for me now to share the experience of women peace builder after Second Karabakh War. For all of us here, for peace activists, it should not be done. Yeah? We try to prevent war, we try to prevent conflict, we worked for reconciliation. But unfortunately, we are now with this great, terrible problem that we have. I want to start from beginning to understand the situation today. I want to say that the conflict start, Karabakh conflict start parallel to a great tectonic process of collapse of Soviet Union. And for us, for Soviet people, it was terrible as for us to live in the circumstances of international relations, respect of all nationalities. And even for us, I lived in Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, but Moscow as a second or even maybe first capital as a big country, Soviet Union, was absolutely ordinary. It was our life, it was our lifestyle. And for me, I mean, maybe Murmansk, Arkhangelsk, or some Siberia were not strange, you know. I tell you to understand just circumstances when the conflict starts. That's why when just in beginning, the conversation of some Armenian groups, Azerbaijani groups against of each other, about raising of Karabakh with the issue of withdraw from Azerbaijan and join Armenia, or next about independence. You know, it was very, very strange for us, very strange. We all were, some people, I mean, intelligentsia joined the efforts just to talk each other and to explain. From beginning, I have to recognize and share with you truth that I was not a peace builder from beginning. I just was a person who very young employee working in Academy of Science because I was in postgraduate, I mean aspirantura. And for me was a situation when I have to say truth. For that moment, you know, I thought that, oh, people, they don't know the reality. They don't know the truth. And I will share with them. They will understand, everything will stop. And Armenians will understand, and stakeholders in the world, they will understand, because what I speak about it is truth, you know. So we were very naive, to think that the truth will change everything. We didn't understand for that moment that some third party, some geopolitical interest, you know, is most biggest advantage for that time to make friendly people the enemy to each other. You know, it was terrible. You know, I grew up with Armenians next to me, my neighbors, my friends, you know, relatives. My brother, one of the brother, married Armenian woman. So to be with them, it was absolutely ordinary. And suddenly the conflict became deeper and deeper. And in front of our eyes, we saw how USSR KGB made the conflict deeper, organize the conflict, and make the hostility between the people, the provocation, the mass media information, focus on nationality of the crimes. Before it was never done in Soviet time when somebody stole something and it was determined the nationality. But it's happened, you know, and it was written in newspaper. One Armenian killed one Azerbaijani, or one Azerbaijani killed Armenian in Nagorno-Karabakh or somewhere. It was so strange for us. And okay, so maybe two years we just fighting for to share the truth, because in front of our eyes the pogroms happened. The pogroms happened in Azerbaijan and in Armenia, and it was absolutely analog to each other. And each people was saying that we are not guilty. Okay, no, Azerbaijani never will do it. It's Armenian who did it. And in Armenia, the same. Oh, Armenians are so intelligent people, they will never do it. Or it's Azerbaijanis who did it. So this blaming to each others. And when we, together with international community, with Helsinki Citizens Assembly, when I joined in 1992, when we start to investigate the issues, the events, we understood a lot of interesting but terrible things. We saw how it was possible to transfer the mind of people, how it was possible to use the scenario to create the hostility and bring people to fight each other. And after the collapse of USSR in 1991, Russia, as a heritage, passed the weapon to the party sides. And sure, what people did, what countries did, for sure they used this weapon against each other, and that's the conflict transferred to the war. When I mentioned HCA, Helsinki Citizen Assembly, I have to say that all peace process start with this organization, with this this organization with great people. And first, these people from different countries came to Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, established the Helsinki Citizen Assembly branches, and I joined them, went to Armenia after 4 years, 3 years of the conflict, maybe 3-4 years, and went to Armenia because I would like to understand the relations of people, the attitude, and to me, how they will consider me, and to say that I don't feel enmity to them, and I want to create peace with Armenian people, because we have to be more clever, more smart than those who made us enemies. And I went there. I was considered in Armenian society, civil society and intelligentsia very well. Even they call me Yuri Gagarin in space. So it was a little bit funny. And my mother saw me channel. I didn't say her that I moved the boundary place and went to Armenia. So you could imagine my mother's shock. And I found in Helsinki Citizens Assembly, I found my very dear friend, Armenian friend, Anahit Bayandur, who passed away, unfortunately. Yeah, and she was wonderful. I believed her. We started to create our work together. And our first initiative was missing people, searching of missing people, release of prisoners of war and hostages. It was successful, but let's say semi-successful, because it was around maybe 4,000 hostages and prisoners of war and missing people, but we could release 500. You know, so maybe we were not enough knowledgeable, professional to do this work. But we start this. We start and we involve youth, women to this process. Our international organization involved very deeply to the process of reconciliation. So I thanks them. I see some people are here.
I'm so sorry, dear Arzu.
Yeah, I know that
I think we are running out of the time. If you could just summarize and make some ending points. Thank you so much. It is so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's topic. It's so difficult, and 30 years experience. It's very difficult to say shortly. But I won't stop now because maybe you will give some question to me. So it was difficult process, and I'm very disappointed that today it was second Karabakh war, and we as peace builders we could not be enough. We didn't convince, we were not enough professional to stop war and solve our problem by peaceful way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, dear Arzu. Natalia, can we put the presentation again? Thank you. And now we move to our second exceptional speaker from Georgia, Tbilisi, Nina Lotishvili, Director and elected Chair of the Board of the International Center of Conflict and Negotiation. She's involved in many large-scale projects that focus on CSO's participation in negotiations, women participation in mediation and positive peace building. She also works in projects that develop the legal mechanisms to combat domestic violence, promote gender equality. In her work, she aims to work alongside governmental agencies and SCOs to create tools to affect change in Georgia. So let's welcome our second speaker. Dear Nina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Dear Nino,
thank you.
This is really a great pleasure for me to be with you and to have that important chance to speak in front of this distinguished audience. So let's start. I have my presentation. Can we share the? Oh yes, here we are. So I would love to somehow greet my our previous presenter, Arzu Abdullaeva. She mentioned very important things. And first of all, would love to echo with the idea that she mentioned that maybe we were all so much naive. And I often think, especially recently, that we remain to be very naive persons once we are remaining in peace building direction on a very grassroots level. So let's start my presentation. Next slide, please. Here you see the current situation of my region, and I rather try to cover whole the region of South Caucasus, and would love to just share that more than past 30 years, we are facing all these devastated outcomes of wars and armed conflicts. Trying to resist the processes of rapid changes in our work. And let's see what we reached for now. Next slide, please. Yes, here would love to share with you the overview, kind of a landscape of established formats for negotiation and monitor for peaceful solution in South Caucasus. And I just divided all the periods into three major periods, which are lasting, each of them more than 10 years. And the launching of particular established formats were started in 1992, and till 1998 we had particular formats for Georgian-Abkhazian, for Georgian-Ossetian, and for the Nagorno-Karabakh conflicts. In 2008, the situation is changed because of crisis between Georgia and Russia, but the Minsk group remained to continue its activities. And in 2008, we have new formats, which are Geneva International Discussions and European Union Monitoring Mission. And then still, we faced last year great changes in my region. And nowadays, since 2020, we have now some formats are continuing, but we have some new formats for negotiation and monitoring post-conflict situation, which are the joint Turkish-Russian Center created last year to monitor the Nagorno-Karabakh ceasefire. We have a really new approach that was constituting a peacekeeping force in the Nagorno-Karabakh, deployment of Russian peacekeepers, and Minsk group remains to continue its work again. And then three entire formats they are continuing. Mainly this is GID, Geneva International Discussions, and European Monitoring Mission for conflicts between Georgia, Abkhazia, and Georgian-Ossetian conflicts. Next slide, please. Here would love to share the landscape of particular negotiation process, because we have to probably divide the situation when it comes to track one negotiations and when it comes to monitoring. And then here is the next slide, please. Yeah. No, that was previous slide. Once more, please. About, no. Yeah. Yes, previous one, please. Okay, we can continue from here. So we missed several slides, but it doesn't matter because the information will be, I don't know, published on the web. can we keep one slide? Yeah, thank you. The idea of my presentation was that pretty rapid changes of established formats for conflict resolution and conflict solution in my region is showing us that all the time we are facing abolished infrastructures for peace. In fact, there are no answers to peace builders' critical question. Who should be responsible for reparation of abolished infrastructures for peace? And this is the main question we all maybe are feeling ourselves naive that each time we have to start everything from the beginning and follow the situation where we are having very limited impact. Next slide, please. So probably it's today's task, first of all, to somehow try to define women's role and not only women's role, but peace builders' roles, women peace builders' roles. And for me, it's very clear that women peace builders are not stable and their roles are not stable in my region. And in fact, we are roaming between rapidly changing periods of fire and ceasefire towards peace processes. Next slide, please. Maybe it's better to somehow mark what is particular our what are our activities about towards ceasefire as a peace builders. Women peace builders are forced to transform their activities to mere humanitarian assistance before, during and after each ceasefire, instead of developing and strengthening infrastructures for peace. National women mediators are forced to transform their roles from peace builders to ceasefire violation observers with poor or limited outcomes, if given the access at all. And national women mediators are never being recognized as an integral part of peace negotiations. Next slide, please. And now I'm sharing my belief what is the peace process at all, and I'm asking the audience, if we are women peace builders, we are part of integral pillars of a peace process. And the three integral pillars of a peace process is they are governments, third-party mediators, and peace practitioners are always considered that they have to be, and then they shall act complementary to each other. A live and effective peace process shall be inclusive for sustainability. And we all know what is an inclusive peace process. It needs a mutual dialogue between the national women mediators, civil societies, and governments in order to bridge bottom and top levels of society. Next slide, please. And now I would love to.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, we are running out of time. If you could just summarize, yeah, because we have still two speakers, and this is.
Okay, great. I'm talking here about visibility, recognition, and legitimation. what we are lacking for all the time working in the field for the past 30 years. And next slide, please. And then that was a ground reason why we decided to launch and establish the network of women mediators of South Caucasus in 2017. However, we are struggling with operationalizing in the absence of adequate funding and political support. And then I was about to share the aims of the network, but you can find them online. And would love to thank you very much. If you have questions, I will happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
then sorry for the technical reasons on showing slides. Yeah.
Yeah, what we can do, this is also one of the challenges of online conferences. Next slide, please, Natalia. So now we are welcome. Thank you so much, dear Nina, for sharing your experience with us. So now we move to our next inspiring presenter from Yerevan, Milena Abrahamian, a feminist, activist, researcher, and seeker of peace. She believes that we will have a better chance of obtaining peace by being and staying in conflict with patriarchy and misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, nationalism, and the history of colonialization. She is the founder of the Beyond Borders, linking our stories, a project aimed at building trust and solidarity between Turkish, Armenian, and Kurdish women. She has a master's degree in peace and conflict research from Uppsala University, where she studied as a Rotary Peace Fellow from 2013-2015. Dear Milena, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nino. And thank you everyone who has organized this very interesting conference. It is an honor for me to be speaking, to be in the company of such inspiring speakers as well. I thought it would be kind of starting to sort of share with you some positive stories of peace building efforts that I initiated with a group of women from Armenia, Turkey, and just to share our story. Can we go to the slide after this one? The first slide. So Beyond Borders is a project that I initiated in 2012. And I was basically inspired by a kind of meeting that took place between Armenian, Azerbaijani, and Georgian women in Tbilisi. I think it was in 2011, where we used theater as a method to build trust among each other. And it was actually my first time meeting Azerbaijani women, Azerbaijani people, given that I was also born in a time, I mean, I was born when the Soviet Union was still there, but then it was, you know, it broke up. So I was a child when that happened. So I don't have these memories of having neighbors and being in friendly relations. And I was basically produced under the propaganda and media sort of teaching us that we should be enemies. But I was also taught to be sort of that my enemies are not just Azerbaijani people, but also Turkish people. So being inspired by this project to work with women and use theater as a method, I decided that it would be interesting to meet some women from Turkey and to use theater as a method to learn about each other and break some stereotypes that we had about each other. Can we go to the next slide? And the next one. So it's basically, I'm basically going to share a bunch of photos with you, just to show you the togetherness of the people that were part of this project. And just to say that this is a project that is no longer ongoing. It was active from the year 2013 to 2017 or so. So this is our first meeting in Yerevan. I'm not going to tell you who's Turkish, who's Armenian, who's Kurdish in this picture, because it doesn't matter. We were meeting for the first time just to discuss how we want to do this project. And a lot of the women in this group are people who come from different kinds of backgrounds, including theater, performance, art therapy, dance, photography, and most of us identified ourselves as feminists as well. Can we go to the next slide? So after we met in Yerevan, we decided that our first meeting with the whole group would be in Şirince, which is a place in Turkey near Izmir. And before we had met, we decided that we would do a kind of not only theater performance, but we would also do a kind of oral story, oral history project. So we gathered stories from women in our own lives about their own sexuality. So we thought that it would be interesting to use this topic that is such a taboo topic, and it's something that can connect all women to get to know each other better. And we didn't really know the sort of which story belonged to who. It didn't matter because all of the stories had some kind of things that were connecting each other. So this is a picture from a little session just a little workshop that I did where we were performing different kinds of emotions. This particular moment was when I asked everyone to perform shame or being ashamed. Can we go to the next slide? So we did a lot of movement and we understood that because there was a language barrier, not everybody was fluent in speaking English. So we had some trouble to sort of use language to connect us. So we decided that we can use our bodies and body language and any other kinds of nonverbal communication. There's a kind of thing that I realized that I think a lot of times in sort of dialogue meetings and these kinds of more official, or maybe not always official, but when people try to speak to each other across borders, across conflict borders especially, words are not enough a lot of the times. And this was a really nice method for us to go beyond sort of what we could say with language and to feel and to understand each other bodily. Can we go to the next slide? So yeah, we did a lot of different things. This is a special place. I think it was called Teatro Madrassi, and it was a space where different performers in Turkey would gather and sort of practice and perform. So we actually, can we go to the next slide also? We had a performance at the end of our living together, and to the next slide also. Where we had some audience members who joined us from nearby villages, and they were listening to our stories, and we performed in our own native languages. So people got to hear Armenian, people got to hear Turkish, and it was a really interesting experience. Let's go to the next slide. So one of the things that was really, we understood as a key to making the work a success was the living together part, because we would meet every year and we would have a kind of retreat for 1 week or for 10 days. And mind you, we are not relatives. We are not like, a lot of people here are not even like best friends or people who knew each other for a very long time. So living together for 7 days or 10 days could be a challenge at times, but we had this kind of method of, we're not going to avoid conflicts. Like if somebody is, having a problem with someone else, we are allowed to express that. And that was something that really helped us when we were together in Akhts, especially. This is in Armenia, and this was in 2014. I'm so sorry, I wrote the wrong date. This was the year after, in 2014. And here, can we go to the next slide? Here we were doing all kinds of things, doing a lot of body movement workshops and also writing and drawing, just with different kinds of ideas. And let's go to the next slide. Yeah, we were eating together, sharing food, and the next slide. So one thing I can say from this particular meeting, because initially I had decided, I mean, we discussed all together, but I really wanted the name to be Beyond Borders. And during this particular meeting, I understood that it's not something that's really possible to go beyond borders. There's a kind of desire to kind of ignore a border when you want to go beyond it because it's there. And I realized that what I actually want to do is I want to interact with borders, and I want to just interaction with borders. Like, you have to just face it and you know, not really ignore it. So it's okay that there's a border, let's say. And borders, I mean, here for us, borders were not just about like national borders. They were about our bodies and our minds, our different kinds of things that we were grappling with. And you can see this is a note that Daphne, one of the participants in the project, wrote to me after we left this particular place. And right next to it is a carpet that we created all together. So these are all little pieces of cloth, and everyone was just drawing things on it or writing things on it. A really wonderful Turkish participant, also an artist, had this idea to do a workshop where we make a carpet, and then we were joking that this is a magic carpet and it can go to all borders and it doesn't matter. You can just go on it. And next slide, please. So after this meeting, we had a performance in Yerevan, and this whole performance was nonverbal. So we were not speaking. People knew that they were coming to see some participants of a project. They're coming to see a theater that is put together by Armenian and Turkish women, but they didn't know who's Armenian, who's Turkish. They just got to see how we are interacting with each other, and just without words. Can we go to the next slide? And the next one. Yeah. So there were a lot of people gathered, and then they were asking us questions afterwards. It was a very interesting discussion. And let's go to the next slide. One thing I would like to mention is that for me, because I've done different kinds of projects, a lot of the times with young people from Armenia, Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, the whole region. And one thing that I've understood, especially in some research projects that I've done, is when you ask people to talk about peace or to imagine what peace can look like, people just kind of stop and they don't know how to imagine that. And I think that it's really important to just go beyond just how you, like using your words to explain what you think peace can be, but to try it. Just try, you know, like with people. I mean, this is not necessarily about track one kind of peace building, right? So we understand that. Here, I just want to mention that at some point, we started getting invitations to go to different places to participate in different events. And we were going and sharing in wherever we were getting invited, some of the performances that we had created together. Can we go to the next slide? So Bratislava was at one place that a small group of us, because we were 20 at some point. This is in Yerevan. There was another kind of event that different people were gathered at, and we were also participating. So we had already formed our group, kind of. So we were kind of an initiative, pretty much. Let's go to the next slide.
Sorry, Milena, I'm
yeah,
you. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a lot left, so let's keep going with the slides, and I'll just finish in 1 minute. You can just keep going. The one of the last meetings that we had was in Büyükada in Turkey, and that year was a really difficult year for many of our Turkish and Kurdish friends. But yeah, basically, I feel like I need to really rush and finish. What is the last thing that I can say? Right now, we are not, this project is no longer active, but a few of us are creating an archive, which we will kind of digitalize and have it online for people to really, so this can be visible and people can know from the region, young women and other generations that will come after us, so that they will know that some people from Turkey, from Armenia, met and they created something together. Thank you.
Thank you, Milena. Thank you so much. Now I'm thinking that maybe we could have a Q&A session now. Then we move to the fourth speaker, because she's not a regional speaker. And she has also one inspiring exercise at the end. So let's have a Q&A session now, and then we ask our dear Helen Tanner to.
Perfect. So one of the first questions is for Arzu, and the question is, could you share your ideas and practice about the differences between the work you did during the 90s war with regards to the release of POWs and the release of POWs now after the war we have just gone through? And I'll go ahead and put that in the chat as well.
Thank you, Serena. Dear Arzu, would you like to answer?
Yeah, it's about the prisoners of war and hostages. Yeah, was question, as I understood. I'm correct? Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Sure. This time it's much more difficult because war just finished, and last time, first war, we organized and asked our authorities to establish the state commission, even organize a picket for this. We collaborate with our Armenian colleagues together and apply to different places where the hostages could be kept. But this time, state commission was destroyed. It doesn't exist anymore. All information under the control of Ministry of Defense, and they work very cameras, don't share any information, just saying that, okay, you can work with Red Cross. We work with Red Cross. We apply to Red Cross about different information, but Red Cross mandate is very limited. Red Cross could get information from you, take it in mind and work, but never apply to you, never approach to your back, just getting the information. So one side, we work one side by giving the information. But what we made recently, we established, we joined youth and women, some women peace activists, and apply, even if this our address will not give the answer, but we may make it. We make it, and the next maybe we will use social media to apply with this issue. Other things that what we need from Armenian society, because one of answers that we get from our authorities that we released all prisoners of war and hostages, but those people who are now, they become the prisoners of war after 2 weeks after the war, and we consider them as the diversants because they were kept as prisoners of war in Nagorno-Karabakh or near Nagorno-Karabakh, in the place called Shirak. So we don't have now to check this information if it's truth or not, but we need to answer from Armenian officials or non-official organizations to improve that those groups are not diversant. Our authorities saying that we have to be sure that if we release these people, they will never take gun to the hand and come to shoot to our civilians once again. So this is the process that we involve, not very successful yet, but we will see.
Thank you.
So sorry.
Serena, are there any other questions?
Yeah, so there's one, I think it's for Nina, but I'm not sure. but is it a pity that our work did not give positive results in the NK conflict? And they pointed out that a negative result is also a result. And from this, it's necessary to draw conclusions. It's necessary to analyze what was our mistake and what were the barriers, and they must be eliminated. And we have to work for different levels with new tools. So I'm not sure if you have any insights on that.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad to answer. And even more, once missing, enough part of my presentation. It's really important to use that opportunity, because the main thing is that we are still lacking three greater things while working in the field. This is visibility, recognition, and legitimation. And as for visibility, we always, while running different and many confidence building measures meetings, we are using and applying to Chatham House rule, because we have to hide who, what, where, when. And as for recognition, we are distanced from peace negotiations. So what should be our work's impact? How can we measure our impact? And then what is the impact of track 2 work when we are never influencing the official negotiations, even we are not engaged or allowed to discuss the agenda of upcoming negotiations? And then this is the situation that continues for ages in my region. And as for legitimation, so what should we title while applying the particular particular situation when it is war escalation, when there are hostilities, what we saw last year and then many other years in the past. So who we are, how we can enter the closed door communication between international mediators and local governments, because we are never recognized and legitimized. We have no permission. We have no support on local, regional, or international levels. And this is a serious problem. Then we have a general question as well, why we are wasting European taxpayers' money through organizing different meetings and then through running that almost useless meetings and discussions, how to make greater wish lists to influence the particular conflict. And as well, we have additional questions, but who are there to listen us? Where is the room when we can share our thoughts and our problems, our challenges we are facing in our regions, in our region and in our communities? Once, speaking loudly that yes, we want to be within the process. Despite we are, grassroots representatives, national mediators, or just civil society representatives. And nobody also is responsible to share the information how the taxpayers' money spent while organizing that track 1 negotiation process. Because we have to calculate everything. We have to count. So this is, really naive approach we are driven with. That this is important. This is important to engage youth. I was really pretty happy to listen my previous, my next presenter when she provided us with a wonderful project results. But still, what would be the main motivator for youth to join the process of peace building in my region? Once they see obvious results that we are not influential. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Nina. So I think that we are really running out of time. So let's move to our next speaker now, and we will collect these questions, and if we will have still time afterwards, and you have the breakout session rooms actually, and you could address also these questions in the breakout rooms. So now I am welcoming next presenter, my amazing colleague, a Rotary Peace Fellow, Helen Tanner, a peace builder, forgiveness coach, speaker, trainer, and qualified psychotherapist. She has an extensive portfolio of working in the UK, including 7 years of charity director and internationally including in Botswana, Tunisia, and war affected Libya and Myanmar, South Sudan, Kosovo, and Belfast. She's a Rotary Peace Fellow and a Global Peace Index Ambassador. She holds a master's degree in conflict resolution and a first degree in law. Helen is passionate about living fully aligned to her purpose, working with integrity and peace in harmony with the self, others, and the planet. So, dear Helen, the floor is yours.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Nino, for inviting me to be part of this today, this amazing webinar, truly inspirational and fascinating and complex. And I'm really humbled and delighted to be joining and to hear the stories of women peace builders. In July 2003, I sat upon the riverbank close to the Albanian border in a town called Jakova in Kosovo. The summer heat was so intense. It was as though someone were holding a hairdryer pointing into our faces as we took refuge under the trees. The river beside us was a constant, gentle voice, like a hypnosis, and in the distance, the children splashed and played. The circles of families gathered here did so every day to share their stories, their painful memories, their confusion, their sadness, their rage, their shock, their guilt at having survived, their stories of heroism on both sides, of running, hiding, fighting survival and violence, and also enduring love and courage. Their stories were deeply personal, but I had the feeling that rivers throughout the world had carried stories such as these all the way to the world's oceans as a way of breathing out and cleansing the horror of what human beings are capable of doing to each other. And these were the stories of war everywhere. In the morning, it was the turn of the children. I was a newly qualified psychotherapist, and after a chance meeting, found myself working in a music therapy centre in Kosovo with the children as my first paid job, having qualified. Through music and art and play, the children were finding a voice with which to express and begin to process all that they had seen and experienced through their young eyes. And the afternoons at the river, it was more the adult space to share. The women's voices were eerily absent, and I was told to leave it be. The women would speak when they were ready and not likely to an outsider such as me. They had shared their stories with journalists, and it felt like their stories were somehow no longer their own. The women needed to feel ownership of their stories. Many years later, I came across an article where a whole football stadium was full of clotheslines, and upon the clotheslines were women's dresses. It was an incredible sight, the dresses on the washing lines blowing in the wind. The women's voices were finally being expressed. Their stories of the war demonstrated through the ripped, stained fabrics. Yet the dresses also had an air of beauty and defiance about them, blowing in the wind. Back at the riverside, day in, day out, for several months, the stories of war were shared with me, shyly at first, and then over time, more freely. I promised the stories would not be shared by me to anyone. They were not my stories to share. And a fascinating thing happens when you bear witness and hear another story, a story of such great pain and suffering, an inquiry as to who we are as human beings. If we cannot share the story, then we must somehow be changed by it. And over the days and weeks, the stories carved into me like the river carves and makes its way through the landscape, moving around the obstacles to its path. The river of painful stories opened my heart in deep empathy, in love for suffering everywhere. Compassion means to be with suffering, to witness suffering, to feel it, to be moved, to take action, to transform it. In those days on the riverbank, I was initiated into compassion by the river of painful stories moving within me. And in those days and in that moment, I committed a life to peace, to finding a way to dedicate myself in service, to supporting us, the global human family, to finding new ways to express who we really are and the goodness that is at the core of who we really are. Forward wind 5 years, and once again I found myself being deeply moved by others' stories, but these were a little different. I recognized the opening, for these were stories of men and women, and each had a similar start. Each one had experienced one, if not more, of the worst possible things in life: murder of a child, rape, kidnapping, torture, terrorism, war. These are the extremes of human experience. And yet here were men and women for whom the story did not end there. Although the beginnings were familiar, what happened next still continues to inspire and light my way. One by one, they told of the rage and injustice that they felt by what had happened to them or their loved ones, but had chosen against all odds to find a way through the trauma, through the pain, through the obsessive ruminating, the memories, the going back, the wanting to change what had happened, the desire for revenge, to a place of peace within. These were people of faith and some of no faith. These were men, women of different ages, different cultures, with one common thing in story, a story of peace, peace building from within. At the time I was studying at Bradford University, one of the Rotary Peace Centres, in my second year of my master's degree. But it was in a village hall, a church hall, and there was no one else there. There was just boards of stories, people telling their stories, and I felt like I had struck gold. The journey to peace that these men and women described having undergone was what they described of forgiveness. Now, I knew little of what forgiveness was at that point, but I decided that I would dedicate my research to finding out. I read story after story, I think about 100 in total, and tried to map the journeys to peace from people who had found it for themselves without any map and often with no support. I documented the common elements of their journey. And as I began my research and told people what I was up to and what I was looking into, I was amazed at the anger expressed at me about how forgiveness was either weak, inappropriate, or amounted to condoning behaviours, or how it couldn't be applied to most acts which were simply too evil or terrible to forgive. I noticed that everyone seemed to have an opinion about forgiveness, but few knew really what it was or how it worked, just that it probably wasn't worth a deeper look. I remember one of the stories I read about in the village hall was someone who'd lost his brother in 9/11. And he said he found it interesting about the people who shouted loudest for retribution were not the ones most closely affected by what had actually happened. Forward wind 13 years and my work, my life in peace building, after spending many years living and working in conflict areas in the realm of mental health and psychosocial support, is now dedicated to supporting others on the path to peace, following the ancient path and process of forgiveness. It doesn't mean we have to reconcile with those who have hurt us. It doesn't mean putting up with abuse. Forgiveness literally means to give away and to heal within us all that is not love, to allow the river of self-compassion to flow through our veins, dissolving the obstacles of hate and fear, and carrying our painful stories to the ocean, who is more than ready to receive our pain and clean it and purify it and bring us back to the goodness and love that is our true nature. I believe that peace will come from peaceful people, and some of the best peace teachers alive today are those that have applied the transformational medicine to their own wounds at the right time for them when the pain and suffering has become too much to bear. There's a wrong time to apply it, and that is when it will lead to further harm, suffering and pain, and that's when further danger is present. But at the right time, and only we individually know when that time is, there is a way through, a way to transform and find peace. Whatever has happened to us, whatever we may have done, we have been gifted a way through. Our stories and the sharing of our stories is the key to building the bridge with each other. And if we can sit in our own suffering and pain and apply love to our own story, then we can then reach and be in compassion to another who is suffering and another who is in pain. Our hearts are the places where we connect. And Rumi said it, there is a field beyond right and wrong, and I'll meet you there. And that is at the place of the heart. So I'd just like to share with you now a very brief exercise based on compassion to meet each other in the place of the heart. I invite you to find a comfortable seated position and place your hand upon your heart. Tune into your body sat upon your chair and notice where in your body you are hurting, where you are holding anxiety, fear, doubt, mistrust, pain and suffering. Bring your attention to this place and breathe in to the place where you feel your pain, and breathe out through the mouth, allowing the tension that you are holding to be released to the air and to the wind for transformation. And breathe in and breathe out. I'd like you to imagine somebody else here today on this webinar, perhaps in another town or another city to you, perhaps in another country. Imagining them in your mind's eye, another being with another story, another being with doubts, anxiety, and yet who is dedicated to peace and the question of peace. With their hands on their heart, imagining them in your mind's eye and wish them the following. May your spirit be strong. May you be safe and protected. May you be held by love. And may you be at peace. And imagine them looking at you with the same loving kindness. and saying back to you, may your spirit be strong. May you be safe and protected. May you be held by love. May you be at peace. Now imagine holding out your hands to your side and taking the hands of everyone else on this webinar, all committed to peace in our own different ways, in whatever way that we can. Just holding hands and reaching out and sending out through the heart to everywhere there is suffering. That may be within our homes, maybe within our communities, it may be within our countries, it may be into nature, maybe to animals, any living being that is suffering. We hold the intention and we reach out and we offer the blessing. May your spirit be strong. May you be safe and protected. May you be held by love. May you be at peace. So when you're ready, please bring your attention back to this space. And I give great thanks to you all for listening and for your presence, and offer you back to Nino. Thank you, Nino.
Thank you so much. So on this note, and while we are holding on our hands, I'm asking Natalia to send us to the breakout session rooms. So we will have 7 rooms in total, and we will have 20 minutes. And these are the guiding questions that you have to make your own reflections. So now we are going into the space where our voices touch others' voices, and where our hands, although distantly, but could also reach others' hands. So Natalia, whenever you are ready, we have the questions also in the chat box. So we have 7 facilitators. Each breakout room has its own facilitator.
ძალიან საინტერესოა, უღრმესი მადლობა.
მადლობა თქვენ.
ძალიან საინტერესოა, ნამდვილად ძალიან კაი სესია გქონდა.
არაჩვეულებრივად არის ყველაფერი, ძალიან საინტერესოა.
Thank you so much. So this was thank you in our native tongue, Georgian.
We could just listen to Georgian language. Is that true? I never heard it
ქალბატონი იულიას, ნინო, ყველაფერი მესმის, მაგრამ ვერ საუბრობ და ქალბატონი იულია დამეხმარა ძალიან და უღმესი მადლობა მას და ეს თუ შეიძლება თარგმნეთ. დიდი მადლობა, ყველა ძალიან საინტერესო.
I want to know what you guys are saying. Unless you're going to translate, please speak English.
Yeah, she was just thanking to another participant who was supporting in translation. Thank you. Didi madloba. Madloba.
ძალიან ბევრი მეგობარი ნახე დღეს და ძალიან საკარგია ეს ყველაფერი.
ჩემი ყოფილი ჩემი
are we still waiting? Yeah? Or
Everyone is here already.
Okay. So welcome back, everyone. And now I'm welcoming our amazing facilitators. If you could just share with us, like 1 minute, shortly, what has been discussed and what kind of findings you had in your room. Who would like to start?
I can go first real quick if you want.
Thank you.
So we had really good discussion in our group. I was really, really excited to hear what everyone had to say. Some of the key things discussed in our breakout room cut across the different questions. So a few of the main points or outcomes of these discussions were it's really important for local peace builders to have clear objectives. And it was really important to focus on building women's capacity and skills. And using an adaptive approach to local peace building would be really important. And a fourth one that was also mentioned is empowering young people and women is extremely important. And so giving young people or women an opportunity to have like school programs for youth to prevent them from being involved in things like gangs, and providing them with scholarships for women who attend university, especially marginalized women. Yeah, so those were kind of a few of the things that came out of that. So I don't know if any other facilitators want to go next and build on that.
Thank you, Serena. Thank you so much. So who wants to continue? Maybe
I think I can go next.
Okay.
I feel like I'm probably the luckiest facilitator in this presentation. In my room, I have 3 speakers actually. I had Arzu, Helen, and Milena, and I also had I also had Ambassador Walter Geyer with me. So that was a really nice opportunity for me to actually have more conversation with the speakers and the ambassador, but also kind of have a pressure, to relay their ideas to the bigger group. But I feel like we have touched on some really interesting points. One of them is that the whole idea is not to silo between the 2 genders, between males and the females, but to actually facilitate the idea that to have the concrete, effective programs for peace, we need to have collaborations between the two sides, between both males and the females, and also between different sectors. And that is the core in probably all of the peacemaking programs. And at the same time, we also talk about how we want to set the goal with these ambitions and the visions of using concepts like human securities to empower those most marginalized and the vulnerable groups, and particularly females, in different regions, and particularly those closer to wars, but at the same time also be aware of the limited resources we have, and to be more strategic about where we want to allocate those resources, and how we can, in order to reach our goal, how we can actually focus on the most vulnerable groups with most of our resources, and then using them to relay the messages to those other groups who probably are more difficult for us to reach directly. So those are the things we have been touched on the most.
Wow, that's wonderful, inspiring. Thank you so much. So next one, please. Who was group 3?
I was group number 1, actually.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
We were actually just a very small group, and not everybody could connect and speak. So it was basically two to 3 people speaking. So what can we do? What are we doing ourselves as peace builders? Is one person was listening to torture survivors or survivors of family members who had been victims of torture, who had been killed, but just by giving empathy and listen to stories. Another one is connecting refugees and local people by volunteering together. And another one is doing research. So research on topics that are related to peace building. And the question about how can women be empowered and how can they contribute to outer processes. That's actually quite a difficult question. The empowering could be done by workshops. You had first exactly to evaluate the needs of the women, to be together with them and see what is it that they actually need, and then do training in those areas. That could be training for communication, training how to reach their own goals, or also training how to approach authorities and engage with authorities. And that could be an answer to the third point. How could women be better included in peacemaking processes, that if they get that if they get the tools to communicate better with the local authorities as a first step. But we didn't have time to get deep into that third question.
Okay, thank you so much, Eva. Thank you. Who would like to be the next?
I can speak about group number 4. And it was an interesting group because we were 3 men and quanta. So we started to have a quota problem and talking about the importance of women in peace building. But it was interesting. I think we were quite modern men because first part we really spoke about that we should fight against this separation, always women, men. And Iraqi makes this great statement, we are all equal. It's very simple, but it is so strong. So when you speak about the less marginalized women, men, we are all equal. And this putting us on equal steps should be on a voluntary basis and not on a forced basis. Regarding on what input you can do for peace building, it was very interesting that our friend Quanta, who is Turkish but living in the States, said that the most important point is to empower youth. So she's working very much to teach new generations of peace builders for empowering youth. So this was interesting. And then we had Iraqi from Georgia, who of course touched very much the issues that you have with Abkhazia and South Ossetia, and how important it is to create a dialogue, and also what importance Rotary has and what importance Rotarian has in creating this dialogue. So they're working, his club is working very much on communication, involving also Russian Rotarians, because they are not Russian Rotarians, they're Rotarians, like the Georgian Rotarians, they are primarily Rotarians. And everybody, of course, immediately agreed that if you don't find your inner peace, it is very difficult to help to increase the outer peace. So this was also essential, with a beautiful statement that only from one of our participants, I don't know if you want me to quote you, but it was, it's only when I managed to find my inner peace that I was able to shake the hands of my enemies. So this is very beautiful statement.
Wow, this is so inspiring. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dirk. So Karin, maybe you would.
Yes, so in our group 5, we were 3 persons who finally could connect for discussion, 2 men and 1 woman, me. Okay, but and we tried to focus on a summarized question for this discussion: how, as we heard before in the presentations, that often women then don't get very far because they are not listened to, they are not included, and so on. So what is needed to strengthen women so they can take up this role of peace builders and peace mediators among their own communities? And so we came very quickly to some psychological capacities like self-respect, self-esteem, a self-space, and especially self-confidence. How to empower women, or how to strengthen women to find these qualities, and then to strengthen them especially within their own solidarity groups of women. So it's also important that women come together and discover together that they do have many more capacities, and they find back to their own self-confidence. And then we had this discussion about empowering. Is it just empowering women, or do we need to change first the environment so that women could empower themselves? And we found out somehow it's linked to each other, between the people and the structures. And well, we also found out that often you first need to empower women, because then the women start to change the structures around, and then they can go forward. And especially from experiences in adult education, you can see that often you can get very quick changes within the attitude of women and how they start to change the environmental conditions around them, if you give them this empowerment by psychological strengthening, but also practical knowledge and capacities. And then they start changing it. And so we again came up to what we already know from other areas, that if you empower women in all these fields, that's where you get the quickest process and progress. And that also just in comparison to what was said before by Dirk, we found out that often you get a quicker change if you first focus on women, giving them the capacities, because they, once changing, they also influence their children and they inspire their children. And if you have now women taking up a role of peace builder, they will also teach peace building to their children.
Wow.
Okay.
This is also very inspiring. Thank you so much, Karin.
I think I'm next.
Yeah, thank
you. Group number 6. So we started actually with a very, I think, mind-triggering question, which was about how can we manage to talk about gender without reinforcing the gender stereotypes, meaning that there is always this stereotype that women are softer and that it's the men who are making the war. And so this was a challenging question. And talking about the questions that were provided in the room, there was Nina gave actually this crucial knowledge that marginalized people, not only women who live across border areas, need fresh information that is unbiased, and for this they need access to the internet as much as they need access to water and clothing and housing and food. And that it was important to let them know that they are not left alone, and that they behold the power of rapid communication, and they need also to be served with tools of security, because it's vital for them. On another note, we also talked about how the importance of, yes, I'm Turkish. We also talked about the importance of reaching out to women from the very beginning of peace negotiations, as all of the stakeholders with having the aim and the goal from the very beginning that we try to reach to a peace agreement, because it's then way harder to reach societal consent on the peace agreements when the stakeholders are not involved since the beginning. And so we had talked about the importance of the example of Colombia peace process through this. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Neil, and all of you for your contributions. I think that we're...
No, Nino, I facilitated group 7. We were from 4 or 5 different countries, 3 women, 2 men, and Goedele will summarize the content. Goedele, please.
Yes, well, many points have already been made, I think so. One thing which Julia and Christina stressed was, first, very simply, if you're working with IDPs, and Julia has a long experience with IDPs, and I think, Christina, you are yourself IDP. Anyway, they said they need 3 things: education, money, money, simply money, and independence. Independence meaning also being secure from violence, not only broader, but also in a family context and so on. And what you need are projects that are really going to the grassroots, to the people, not big things by enormous organizations when in the end nothing is left when it comes to the IDPs yourself. So it's very simply, I think, education, money, independence, though that it's a complexer thing. Second thing which Julia was stressing and that I could support really is she said, before you start speaking about empowerment, you should speak about security. Because and not only in the sense that that war stops, but also that people who try to work for peace, who try to mediate, who try to do dialogue, that they are secure. And this is lacking in the Caucasus sometimes, as Julia pointed out, and as I know from my, well, I'm a friend of Azu. If I talk to Azu and how she worked with Natalia and so on, it's not simply secure. Huh? There are risks doing that. So as an international group, and we've always been trying that at ACA during the years, is giving them protection. Simply, hey, we're here, we're watching what's happening to these people. That's a second thing. And there's something I miss here, I think so. Oh yes, there's the point of who's listening. Who is listening? As what Julia said, I mean, who is listening? You can go around, but if nobody takes these civil society people and these grassroots serious, then, well, then in the end, you get frustrated, of course, yeah? And so I think it's not only a question, because Azu always says that. I wonder, I feel guilty. Why did this happen? Why? What did we do wrong? But I also think that the outside world and the NGO world outside did something wrong. Huh? They left the Nagorno-Karabakh for many years. We are only interesting. I mean, how many webinars have I seen during the last 6 months about Nagorno-Karabakh? Probably more than the last 20 years together. So that's the lesson I think we have to. I mean, when I speak about webinars, of course, we didn't have pre-COVID webinars, but basically it was out of the attention. So who's listening? We should also listen. Okay, I mean, that last thing, it was not said in the group, I'm saying it now. Okay, fine. Is there something Julia or Christina want to add, or where are you, Mark and Charles?
I think you made a beautiful summarizing of our discussion about the only thing which I wanted to add, that a level of violence is very significantly increasing also in families against women and women peace builders, because when in protracted conflict you have high level of violence and unresolved conflicts, of course this impunity influences also situation in family and situation against women. So it's also necessary to take into account usually. But thank you, Hudla, for this wonderful summarizing.
Wow, thank you so much. I'm inspired, really. We all had an opportunity to share, right? All groups have been shared. Okay, so now we are going to close our webinar, but my invitation for you, thanks first of all, everyone, our amazing speakers, amazing facilitators, all participants, for your really inspiring contribution. But now it's a little bit an invitation from myself. What are you going to take? So just maybe you could close your eyes for a couple of minutes, and maybe you just think for yourself, what what are you taking from today's webinar? What was the inspiring word that came up? For me, I would like to start. For me, it was a connection. Connection with all of you, with your beautiful talents. So we are all peace builders, and we are all connected. We are representing a sort of peace building orchestra with our unique talents and with our unique instruments. So if you would like to share in a chat what was the word, you're very welcome. Otherwise, you keep it just with yourself. So I'm taking connection with all of you, and of course, gratitude.
Well, good morning, everyone. You know, I came a little late because I have another meeting. I want to thank Nino on behalf of the Rotary Action Group for Peace. You know, I sit on the board of directors. You know, as I listened to all of you, and I listened to the kindness and to the solving of problems, I know, you know, with the problems in the world, you as peace builders will never, ever run out of business. That's fortunate, unfortunate, but we will never run out of business. But with your kindness, with your peace within, with your dialogue together, I think peace will thrive everywhere. So to all of you, you are people of action, and you are peace builders. So congratulations on your move. Congratulations to all our women, because women in nature, they give birth, they give kindness, they give life. And the women who give life are worthy of leading our generations into a peaceful world. So thank you again. You are beautiful, awesome, kind, love it. You have a beautiful day, all of you. And I've seen a lot of you. Ava, I've listened to her before. And I've, you know, Mark, George, Irakli, you know, all good people always meet, and you make it possible. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do to make peace in the world. Love you all.
Thank you, dear Shab. Thanks for your contribution.
If I may say something.
Yes, please, Natalia.
So I would like to also thank you very much, to thank you everyone for joining us today on behalf of Rotary Peace Fellowship Alumni Association European Chapter. And please follow our website where you will find our next webinars and our program. And please join us for the second Global Cyber Peace Conference on the 19th of June this year. So everyone is welcome to join. And also, we also, as a Rotary Peace Fellowship Alumni Association in Europe, we are also developing peace projects, including in the South Caucasus. So we would recommend you to visit our website, our 10 project data, which we organized last year, and also to learn more about our projects, including in the South Caucasus and other regions. So please stay with us. Thank you very much for joining today. Thank you.
Yeah. May I say a few words as well? Thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you very much, Nino. I'm very proud of today's event because I have also a small portion of supporting Nino to study for a Rotary program, and I would like to apply to all Georgians. I saw they are presented in this meeting that, as you know, Rotary is working for peace building, and our doors, I mean our Rotary clubs in Georgia, doors are always open for a good project and good, let's say, ideas to support peace in Georgia. So we are working to, of course, with together with Nino as well, about national peace building concept, which will be shared by all Rotary clubs in Georgia. I think everyone can find their peace in this, let's say, big approach. And so you're welcome with your ideas and your projects. We will support for sure. Thank you very much for great meeting.
Thank you, Irakli. Thanks for your contribution. Thanks for your support. So, yes, here we are. Thanks again to all of you for your wonderful and amazing, inspiring contribution to this webinar. I'm honored and inspired and encouraged as well. So yeah, here in the chat box, you have our contact details for the speakers, of myself. So you could contact us in future for the questions, concerns, or whatever. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Event, and good luck to you in your work here and in peace building. Thanks to you and thanks to Natalia. It was very nice to meet you after the years. So hope we will continue our cooperation, our relations. Good luck to you. Thank you. It was I got a lot of interesting ideas. So it's time to think about it. Thank
Great.
you.
Amazing. Thank you, dear Arzu. I'm really happy to meet you.
Thank you.
And all of you, yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.